Hello everyone, and welcome to a Playbuffer tutorial. So this is the first tutorial that I'm going to be making using Playbuffer, and in this tutorial I'm going to be going over how to spawn in and move a game object using the Playbuffer library. So to start off with, all I have here is, all I've done here is I downloaded the Playbuffer library from GitHub, and then I just copied every single file in here into my own repo here. So let's click on Hello World solution, and we get this. Just a little warning: if you're loading this up for the very first time, you might just see a blank screen here. If you do, just click the Hello World drop down at the top right here, and click the source files drop down and click on main game, and you'll get what you see in front of you. So let's just see what's already here by pressing this local Windows debugger button at the top. As you can see, just an orange screen with the words Hello World on it. So I'm just going to get rid of the words to start with. I'm going to just comment it out. And I'm also going to change the color of the background to something like green. Perfect, that's a nice color. And you can change this color to whatever you want, obviously. Okay, so before we actually load our game objects in, I want to just talk quickly about how we're going to store it once it's loaded. So storing it correctly is really important, as we're going to be able to want to get our game object, our correct game object, basically anywhere in the code, in different functions, wherever we want to. And so for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to be doing this using something called types and something called an enum, which I'll touch on in a moment. But the general system that Playbuffer is built to use uses something called object IDs. Luckily for you guys, the inner workings of this are a little bit too advanced for this particular module and tutorial. But if you would like to know how Playbuffer does this, how it handles its memory and its game objects, I'm going to make an extra video where I'm not going to really be doing much code, but I'm going to be going over the behind the scenes a little bit more. I would recommend giving this a watch. The system it uses is really useful in a whole bunch of different projects, not just this one. But anyway, like I said for this tutorial, enums and types. So at the top of our work, let's create an enum called gameObject type. So an enum is short for an enumeration, and it's defined as a data type consisting of named values like elements that represent integral constants. In layman's terms, this is basically an easy way to be able to set a variable to one of a bunch of different options. And it means that the type of this variable isn't going to be something unexpected. It's only going to be able to be one of the ones that we list. So in our enum, let's create two types. The first one we're going to call type no one, and we're going to set this equal to -1. And then we're going to create one called coin. You can call these whatever you want, and you can make as many of you as you want. The reason I've done these two is type no one is going to be a kind of like default, so if something doesn't have a type, it's going to be type no one, and that's why it's -1. And then type coin, because we're going to spawn a coin in. A coin is one of the sprites that Playbuffer gives to you, which is why I'm choosing to do a coin in this tutorial. Okay, so now we've made our enum, let's go to our main game entry function, and let's create a game object. So we use the create game object function, and to this we feed our type, so type coin. We feed our starting position, so I'm just going to go for 200. You can put this wherever you want, but just bear in mind you have the width and height, so try not to spawn it off screen. And next we need a collision radius. I'll touch more on this in a separate tutorial on collisions. For now, we'll set it to 50. And then we need the name of our sprite, which in this case is coin. For the name of the sprite, you just go to your project folder. You go Hello World, Data, Sprites, and you can see here we have a sprite called coin. These are all the default ones that Playbuffer gives to you. You can call your sprites whatever you want. Just make sure they match coin and coin. Cool, perfect. So now we've made our game object, but if we press play, we don't see our game object. The reason for this is that 60 times a second we are clearing our buffer and we're redrawing it. So every frame we just clear the screen and then we completely redraw everything on the screen. I'm actually going to change this to black because that green is a little bit too offensive for me. A little bit too bright. Okay, so what we need to do here is every frame between the clearing and the drawing, we need to make sure that our project knows to draw our coin. So we could do this in this function, but we're also going to want to do a lot of logic in terms of like moving the coin once we spawned it, and I don't really want to do that all in here, partly because in a game you're probably going to want more than one object, and if you have all the logic in this one function, it's going to get a little bit messy. So let's create a new function down here at the bottom with returning type void, and let's call it update coin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our game objects. So we use a function called, we need to give it a name. We use a function called get game object by type, and we give it type coin. So as you can see up here, we've given it type coin, and then down here we retrieve it by just searching for the object that has the type coin. This ampersand here means that we're actually returning a reference to coin. Don't worry about that too much. You'll learn about it. It's very, very important, but you'll learn more about it at a later date. So for now, just trust me and put the ampersand there yourself. Alright, so let's, now that we've got our coin, let's draw the coin. Oh. So we use a draw object function, and we draw our coin. Okay, so now we have a function that will draw our coin for us, but we haven't actually called the function. So in here, let's do update coin. Now we have one final problem, a little bit of a trap, in that the compiler reads from top to bottom. So it's going to get to here, and it's going to see this function, and it's going to be like, I don't know what this function is, because I haven't seen this function already while I'm reading from top to bottom. So the way we're going to fix that is, at the top, we're going to define our function. What this line of code is going to say, we need to give it its type as well, is that when it gets to here, the compiler's, although it doesn't know exactly what's in the function yet, it's going to know up here. This is basically just telling the compiler, hey, this function is coming. I know you haven't seen it yet, but it exists and it's coming. So just chill out and you'll get there eventually and you'll see it. And yeah, that's all we need to do to draw our game object. So let's press play and have a look. There you go. We can see our coin on our black screen, no longer bright green. And that's good. That's what we wanted. Alright, so now let's work on moving our game object now that it's been spawned. So I'm going to do it using the arrow keys, just up, down, left, and right. And I'm going to make 4 if statements for this. Just a little aside here. I haven't seen your coding standards. So if they're different from this, then you might have to slightly change the naming convention. The reason I'm bringing it up here is because I do my brackets on the same line, which is a little bit odd, so it may not be what your coding standards say, so maybe just check that. But anyway, let's go back to making our if statements. So we're going to make 4, and 1 for each of the arrow keys. Let's change this to down, left, right. Perfect. And then in here, what we're going to do is we're just going to change the velocity of our coin. So in up, we do coin velocity plus equal to 0, -1. Perfect. Now this might look a little bit odd to people who have seen the word up and then see the number -1. Most programs, and Playbuffer is no different, will draw from left to right and then from up to down. So they'll start at the top left. The top left will be the origin, and then they'll go downwards into the right, which is why up is actually negative. And then similarly, if I copy this line, down is positive, and then left and right are thankfully more normal for us. So left would be -1, 0, and right would be 1, 0. And we want to do all of this stuff before we draw the object, I think. Perfect. And then at the bottom, just to, in fact, why don't we have a look and see what the problem is now? So I'm pressing the arrow keys now, and nothing is happening. And the reason nothing's happening is because we haven't actually updated the position. We've only updated the velocity. So at the bottom, to handle the logic, we're going to call a function called update gameObject coin. GameObjects also have a value called velocity. Well, obviously they have a value called velocity. They also have one called acceleration, and they also have one called position. This update GameObject is going to use all of those values and convert them all into position. It's going to use speed, distance, time triangles, and speed, acceleration, time triangles, and basically just do all the logic and update the position of the coin accordingly. And then one more thing we're going to do, just to tidy up a little bit, is I'm going to set the velocity back to 0. Oh, I need to do that in squiggly brackets. Doesn't like this very much. Perfect. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's just going to make sure that the velocity doesn't keep being added as we hold the key down, so that it doesn't just accelerate off into infinity. And then let's press play and see if it works. Yeah, there you go. Up, down, left, right. And when I stop pressing it, it doesn't. Because I've done if statements here and not if else statements, I can press 2 of the keys at the same time, and they'll move both ways. So I'm pressing left and right now. I'm pressing up and left now, etc. And perfect. That's our object moving. One more thing before I go is at the moment I can just move this object off the screen. I'm going to show you a way to fix that. So the way I'm going to do this is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a note of the object's position at the start of each frame. And then down here, oh, that should be 0.2f. There you go. Down here, before my velocity and draw, or resetting my velocity and drawing it, I'm going to add 2 more if statements. I do like my if statements. We're going to use this isLeavingDisplay area function, and I'm going to check firstly in the vertical axis. It needs to be capitalized, and then I'm going to do the same thing in the horizontal axis. Okay, and then if it's leaving vertically, I'm going to set the position of the coin to be equal to the old position of the coin, at least in the y-axis, that is, so the y value of the position of the coin equal to the old y value. And then I'm going to do the same for, need to get rid of that point, for the x if it's leaving horizontally. The reason I'm doing 2 checks here is you don't have to. If you just do isLeavingDisplay area and then get rid of this, like so, it will also just work and check both at the same time. But at the moment I can move left and up at the same time. So if it reaches like the left and I'm still pressing left and up, I want it still to be able to go up. I just don't want it to be able to go any more left, which is why I've done 2 separate checks. And then if I press play, and you see I reach the top and I can't go any further. And the same for the left and the right. Perfect. All right. That's how to create and move a game object in your own Playbuffer projects. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorials.